Yep, I can hear you. What's
Hey,
going on,
Max.
monkeys?
Hey. All right. Let's get a little bit of this chart just so people can see it. Everyone, once again, Max, big YouTuber, finance space, been doing it for a while. Very cool, high quality production stuff. Highly recommend checking it out. Similar to me, does some live streams, does other videos, always pushing out content. Check that out. But basically, Max, so I was interested in bringing you on, doing a little bit more of a longer term, longer form thing. So if you could just give your own introduction of just what you're doing, YouTube space, a little bit of your history on YouTube, and then also with trading would be very, very beneficial to my Space Ape group here.
Sure. So I guess the history of YouTube kind of starts with my business history before that. So like foremost, I'm a business owner all throughout my whole life. The last 12 years or so, I've owned various businesses of different kinds. And that got pretty serious about it when I was about 18 years old, when I started having, businesses with employees and things like that. And by the time I was 21 years old, I had a nationwide moving company with like 92 employees across the country. And from there, I was kind of looking at YouTube and I was like, okay, I feel like I have something here that other people would like to learn about. I'm doing these kind of big things that I'm not seeing anyone else my age doing. So I started posting content about that, and it didn't really take off. It was kind of a niche thing because I have a moving and storage business. How many people are really interested in moving and storage? Then from there, I kind of transitioned into more finance news, more general topics that could help larger audiences, and that's where that really took off on the YouTube space. And it really just started taking off about a year ago. Actually, it's the 3rd of March today. Today is actually my 2-year YouTube anniversary. So that's kind of exciting.
Oh, that's so
But
cool. Mine is I'm a year behind you. I'm at March
okay.
8th was my first video like ever posted.
Oh,
It's so
nice.
funny.
Dude,
That's
you're
awesome.
killing it then. Holy smokes, 100K in your first year. Dude, that's awesome.
Super super fortunate and so a little bit just in this group. I mean, these space apes are crazy. The support is real, and that's awesome though to hear your story. The entrepreneurship so early at 18. So besides moving and YouTube, like, have you, obviously those have been successful ventures for you, and I would love to know more about that. But like, I guess any words of wisdom on maybe some ventures that you started that like, hey, this just isn't for me. Like, I think a lot of my group, I mean, at least in my, what they learned from me is actually some of my worst trades. So like, do you have any advice on, like, I mean, a lot of people starting businesses and stuff out there. Can you shed on some of the things that, like, the lessons you learned from the things that didn't go so
Sure.
perfectly?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's actually probably a more important question. So, I mean, anyone who's successful has thrown plenty at the wall, and a lot of it doesn't stick. So, a lot for me has been around thinking bigger. So, my very first business was just a real small landscaping company, just me. My second business was a sports supplementation company that I started just basically because I was in high school sports, and I was worried about like breaking rules as far as like substances you could and couldn't take. So I started that business. It did fine. It earned me like a couple $100 a month, but it never really took off. And to the point where I guess I could consider that kind of like a failure. I made money on it, but it was more a learning experience than anything. And I really realized that wasn't an industry that I wanted to be a part of. As far as other learning experiences go, probably the biggest one for me with my moving company was I focused on growth way too much. I grew too fast, too quickly, instead of really buttoning down operations first and then growing. And I would have saved a lot of money and a lot of stress if I if I had made sure I had a system and process for everything first before expanding too quickly. Because I was just like, I wanted to be a growth monster, just like take over the world with my moving company, which I was trying to do. But then I later realized it's better to be much more profitable and smaller than just everywhere and not as profitable. So that's probably my
Interesting.
biggest lesson.
So I
Yeah.
guess with still running that and obviously YouTube and with your trading, to get a little bit more to like what's going on the screen now, are you more of like kind of a longer term investor just because there's obviously so many hours in the day? Like, do you not really have the time to like buy, sell, like all that stuff? So are you looking more for like, I saw some of your recent stuff was more on like crypto, Palantir. Are you more for like long term value type of stock market playing?
Yeah. Very much so. So this is kind of interesting, but up until probably like 3 or 4 weeks ago, I had never sold a stock. I've only bought stocks and just held them. So I'm very much value long-term investments. I got very into finance when I was about 18, 19 years old. And I basically wanted to make a ton of money off of equities. But then I realized the way I wanted to do it, I had to have a bunch of money to do that. And so then I kind of set off onto my journey of making a bunch of money that I could later invest in the stock market. And even now, my portfolio isn't huge. I actually haven't disclosed how big my portfolio is, but I have way too much cash right now because I'm just waiting for good deals.
Yeah, I mean, we were actually just talking about that in the stream in general of like right now, some of those big indices, S&P, NASDAQ 100, Russell, they're all looking a bit toppy. So I think within the next month or two, we'll have some good like discount shopping opportunities for those like longer term plays. So speaking of that though, I guess what stocks are on your go-to list that you're like, I very, very much want this when the opportunity presents itself?
So my big one as of yesterday is Palantir, which isn't a typical investment for me because they don't have income yet, but they're growing fast. I spent all day yesterday researching Palantir, and I just put out a video yesterday, and I was impressed. I went into it with no expectations whatsoever, and really went into it not expecting to want to invest. And now I'm like, okay, I want to hop in on this company. Actually, when I was streaming earlier today, I bought 150 shares of it, but I plan to buy more. I'm hoping it goes down even lower. So that's a big one as far as like a growth potential for, in my opinion, for value right now. One of my favorites is Tyson Foods, which is a bit of a controversial company, just because of what they do. But it's one of the few like industry giants that hasn't really recovered yet from the pandemic. And as far as I can tell, doesn't really have a reason to not recover. Their income, their revenue wasn't that dramatically affected by the pandemic. I mean, people are still eating. They had some additional expenses due to just wanting to make their factory safer for workers. But other than that, like they were barely affected, and their price has not recovered. It's gone up like 6% since I've been talking about it, and that's a long-term play that I think is going to prove to be real fruitful in 5 or so years.
Okay. Sorry, just because of the little chat delay. Some people are now curious, bringing it back a little bit to Palantir, of what
Sure.
entry price they're asking is like for you, like a solid one that you'd be. So right now, Palantir is trading at 24.40. What are you personally targeting on it?
So I don't think it's a horrible price right now. We're looking at a price to sales of about 40, which is pretty high. It's hard with Palantir because they don't have any super close competitors to compare things to.
Yeah.
The industry average price to sales ratio for their industry is only like 8.5. It's like 8.44 or something like that. So they're way above that. But if you look at the other companies in that sector, they don't do the exact same thing. So it's hard to say. I would love to see the price to sales, of around 20, which would mean Palantir is $12, but I just don't think that's going to happen. I think right now is a good entry point. If it goes down, in my opinion, even better. I'll buy more. A perfect entry point, would be anything around like $18, but it's the kind of investment where you're probably not going to want to hop in unless you got some cojones to ride the storm for a while, because you could buy and see it drop 30-40% before really seeing some gains 5 to 7 years, in my opinion.
Gotcha. So Palantir, I've been following it, I guess, since the IPO. Just like so, my background a little bit like is in software, so I knew about Palantir, and I believe that they were founded in like somewhere in the early 2010s, like 2011, something like that, and it just recently went public. Um, but I was watching their demo day event whenever that happened. I think that was a month or two ago. And from a software tech perspective, I truly believe that Palantir is a couple years ahead from a technology basis of what they can do. It's very like, and demos don't really work well for tech just because it's software engineers that really appreciate it, and the rest of the world they're like, oh, that's cool, but it's sometimes it's lost in the ether of like how difficult it is of what they just pulled off. So I think Palantir, in terms of data analytics, it kind of is like winning. And then the fact that they're so paired up with the government, I really, really like that. I mean, the US government, it's not going anywhere. They have no issue spending our taxes. And in a way,
Right.
you're almost like getting some of that back with Palantir. But going back to their competitors, I believe one of their closest competitors, not the exact same thing, is Snowball, the one of Warren Buffett's like weird IPO ones, like a rarity of him. Do you track Snow at all, or are you like exclusively more interested in Palantir?
Very little. I looked at it a little bit yesterday. I own a decent amount of Berkshire Hathaway, so I guess I have a little bit of exposure to Snowball just through that. Uh, but yeah, I don't know a ton about it.
Okay, I was just curious,
Yeah,
kind of that data analytics industry, but
yeah.
Palantir, I was from a technical perspective. So in my own private account, I'm in it. I bought it closer to 25 off of like a little bit of a technical bounce we had going on. But man,
Mhm.
I'm watching the low 20s. You brought up 18. I think that closer to 20, the better. If it breaks 20, I would be buying a ton, honestly, just
Right.
to hold it. Because like even this, at a certain point, just a mean reversion play back up to the 30s is like realistic. But longer term, I think Palantir's on the up and up for sure. If you have any final thoughts on that, I'm more than willing to listen. But of course, we have to get some of your thoughts on the obviously these meme stocks. But also before we go on that, I was just looking through a little bit of your video log, and I would a lot of the people in this chat are kind of interested in not only the main cryptos but also the altcoins. So I think we could have an awesome discussion about that.
Sure. Yeah, I guess just to finish off on Palantir, I just wanted to ask, is there anything that you don't like about Palantir? Because I'm trying to, get balanced opinions here.
Palantir. So when I was, I don't really discuss this too much on stream, but like when I'm looking at the fundamentals of it, like you said, it was at 40. I honestly, that's even higher than I thought it was. Like a lot of these tech ones, like over, like the PE, like you're looking at those mid 30s, the fact that it's over it. But then again, Tesla and that stuff, like they're trading, or Shopify, they're trading at numbers like that don't even make sense in its PE. So I think we're moving into this world where there's like big social pushes. So like if we used old modeling techniques, something that like Warren Buffett would really be into, they would look at Palantir and say it's overvalued. But then on the
Mhm.
other side, I mean, we've been seeing solid run up since its IPO, so it could happen. So it's like in that weird thing of, are we pricing it fundamentally as a business, or are we looking at like the company as a story narrative? And it's like, which one's going to be more important? So I think recently, especially over the past year, we see examples of like benefits and really pros and cons to both of those. But in terms of Palantir, I would say one of its potential vulnerabilities, wow, I'm having the worst time saying that, is really, I don't know how it would happen with any big political shift. Obviously, these people are collecting data, doing data analytics, DoD, NSA. I think they just are helping a little bit with the Rona. They're doing FDA work. So, like, I wonder if, like, every 2 years, especially every 4 years, when there's potentially big political shifts, if like that could help them. I don't know enough how their deals are structured. We're like, oh, hang on, we're gonna stop spying on people as much as we do. So like, if that would hurt their bottom line, that type of stuff.
Yeah, one thing I saw that was a criticism of them is they have too much leverage with government contracts.
Hmm.
So it's kind of from an investor perspective, that's almost like a good sign, because basically what they said is they have someone sitting there hearing about the problems of the government, and they're the only ones who have the solution. They're like, all right, well, we'll just double the bid, or whatever. So that was a major criticism of them.
Yeah, I could see that, and like kind of tying in, just like you don't know if a new Senate, House, or whatever starts to love them, hate them. I feel like it could be swinging every 2 to 4 years with just like the
That's
political
true.
pendulum. Um, Interesting. Okay, so thank you for that. So overall, a lot of people in this chat, we have strong Bitcoin investors, Ethereum investors, swing traders. They talk a lot about Cardano. So high level stuff, which are 10, 15 years down the road, where do you see crypto going as a whole?
Long term, I think it's the way. Short term, obviously, we could see a ton of volatility. For most things, I would love to just see a nice 30-40% haircut so I can go on a shopping spree. But I think, it doesn't really matter what price you buy in on Bitcoin or Ethereum right now, because 5-10 years from now, it's probably going to be a laughable price right now, just in my opinion.
I definitely agree with you, especially with these two front runners, Bitcoin and Ethereum. So the chat, like they're always asking me about more of these altcoins. So like, what are your thoughts on like, I guess Dogecoin, more of that main one. So Dogecoin, Cardano, like more of those. What are your thoughts on like, I guess for lack of a better term, let's call it like a second tier crypto options?
So I'm not an expert in a lot of the altcoins, just full disclosure. So I don't want to say anything that I don't have a lot of knowledge around. But it seems to me like with a lot of the altcoins, it's not even so much who has the best tech. It's more just what has the most hype. I mean, we're seeing that with
Yes.
Dogecoin, even though it's basically a replica of Bitcoin. Just copy and paste Dogecoin instead of Bitcoin in the code. But it's really just based more on hype than anything, which is kind of what we're seeing in stocks too. So it's almost like you could catch the wave if you're monitoring all, Wall Street bets, stock twits, things like that. You might be able to catch the wave early, but I think that kind of matters most for altcoins than anything.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It seems, I mean, really, meme coin itself, like that's what it is. It's like, or Dogecoin, which is a meme coin, is moving because it's the troll
Yeah.
meme coin. I totally get that. Do you think this is what I was talking with some friends about? Do you think that it's possible in the future that 10, 15, whatever, how many ever years down the line, that there could be multiple crypto winners, or do you think it'll be exclusively dominated by like the one winner, and we're now all trying to pick that one winner?
Yeah, that's a good question. So for the longest time, I thought there was just going to be one winner, and it probably would be Bitcoin because they were kind of the first to the game, and they were just. You think of if you're not super well versed in crypto, you think of Bitcoin and crypto as the same thing. I think it's kind of like Kleenex. You think of every facial tissue as a Kleenex, kind of it's the name brand. But then the more I learn about it, the more I'm like, oh, there's actually kind of different use cases for different coins. Like the smart contracts is a big one. So we might see something where like a Bitcoin is just the store of value, and then we see another coin like Ethereum that's used in transactional things like business and stuff like that. So there could be multiple winners, I think now.
Interesting. I like that. So almost the way we were talking about Palantir, though, what do you think are the biggest vulnerabilities of crypto as a whole? Like, what do you think could, I guess, stymie it?
Hmm. I mean, its own volatility might be might be a potential big risk. If there's another big sell off of 80% or something like that, and then it just completely dies down in hype for another year and a half, kind of goes into hiding, which I don't think is as likely now that there's all these institutional investors hopping in on like Bitcoin. But maybe some governmental intervention, like if the Fed decides, hey, we don't like Bitcoin because we can't control it, there's a potential risk there. But I think if they, thinking about it even deeper, if we saw the Fed go out and say like going against something like Bitcoin, it probably just get more popular.
That's actually what I was thinking as well. Of like, obviously, I know Janet Yellen, has been doing some negative things, saying some negative things about Bitcoin, and then I was thinking like, the initial user base of crypto is like the very anti, like against the man type thing. So I think it could lead into that. So you have one case scenario where the government accepts it, big companies, Tesla, Apple, MasterCard, they accept it. Everyone's like, cool, it's getting like Fortune 500 validation. That's good. On the other side, if people push against it too hard, it almost seems like a win-win to me. Like I've been trying to think about it, and I get that there's multiple cryptos and not all of them are going to win. But as a whole, I don't know. I'm trying to be a fair and like look at the pros and cons. I just don't see how crypto could lose in the long run. Besides the fact that it also just makes logical sense to have like one united currency that we could all use, like beyond like the logic of it. I don't know. It seems
Right.
win-win to me though, for sure.
Yeah, I think we're always going to see all those altcoins. I mean, it's just like I don't know how many regular like paper fiat currencies there are right now in the world, but there's probably over 100. It's probably going to be something like that where the US dollar is the standard, and then I guess I don't even know what we would consider the next standard as far as like countries' currencies go. Maybe the euro, I guess, would be number two. So maybe the US dollar is like Bitcoin, the euro is like Ethereum or something like that.
I can see it trending in that way. Interesting. I like that. So overall, though, what do you just kind of cost? Or are you looking to buy at like support or on big dips, or are you buying Bitcoin, Ethereum, other ones like just monthly and like averaging it? How are you handling the situation for like, let's say, the remainder of this year?
Yeah, I think I'm just going to start averaging it. I've been waiting and waiting for there to be a dip, and I just am not sure if that's going to happen because it was sitting at like $28,000 like a month and a half, maybe 2 months ago, and I was sitting there thinking like I was really debating on buying an entire Bitcoin just to make a video out of it. Bought an entire Bitcoin, and then I was like, I think it's going to probably go down to like 24, so I'll just wait, and then it didn't. So I should have hopped in at that point, and I might be saying the same thing 3 months from now. So I think I'll just probably start averaging my way in. Maybe make a purchase every month or so.
I feel the exact same. Recently, Bitcoin, like last week, it was taking a bit of a hit. I was like, cool. Like, I was thinking about getting some at 42.40. I saw some support there. Of course, it turned early on me. So, like, sometimes when you're timing the market like that, I now missed up on this, what, $7,000, $8,000 run up. And I'm like, that's just how it goes sometimes. Like, sometimes you really
Yeah,
help by lowering your risk, and other times you miss, like, a pretty gnarly rip. But I guess that's the game we play sometimes.
right. I'd like to hear a little bit about your like trading history? What got you into it? What got you into YouTube as well?
Oh, for sure. So, my background is like in college, and what I've been doing for years in my professional life was software engineering. So, way back in high school now, I've been in some capacity or other involved in the stock market for probably, well, definitely over a decade now. And I think I had a pretty normal start, like many other people, where um, you want those big gainers. So you're looking at like you don't have much money when you're in high school, so you're like, oh, I want penny stocks. You're looking for that, and like I got burned on it. I know there's people, I don't want to be disparaging to people trading penny stocks. It just wasn't me. I couldn't be net profitable on it. Like sometimes I had big winners. Unfortunately, I just had larger losers.
Mhm.
But then as I got into it, I just read books, found some channels like, well, also back then, not many people were doing much information on like giving it out on YouTube like this. Like I think the rise of YouTube finance has been in the past 3 years, I would say. So at that point, I'm just like reading books and all that. And then when I got into college and I started programming, I was like, oh, I want to use this. Like I don't have the time. And I thought my biggest issue, and I actually still think it was I was like emotionally trading. I was always chasing. If I had a big loss, I would do that. I was like, well, I know how to code. Let's do some algorithmic coding. So I did that, and I was doing it on the futures market exclusively because I could get data for the futures market free. That was only it. Like, it's not like I thought futures were better. It's just I got free data sets. That's how I did it. So I was trading that for a while, and I'm actually still trading it. If you go back to my oldest videos on this YouTube channel, it's about my trading algorithms. Like, I'm still running those. I just the people on YouTube, like it's just so niche. It didn't really like catch at all. And so from there, I ended up just slowly transforming it. So it went from trading algorithms to just teaching about this is RSI, MACD. Then people started, hey, like, can you teach me a little bit about options? And I was like, so like as I was doing it, like I always traded those things. And then I have the different accounts for it. So I have like the algorithmic trading account that's on the futures market. Once in a while, I'll mess around with options. I would say a majority of my money is split between that futures account and just longer term investments. And then the way it kind of morphed with YouTube was a year ago. At that point in my life, I was living in Brooklyn, and when the world was shutting down, updates. And then a month ago, when the whole AMC and GME saga like went up, that's when I actually started getting into this world of live streaming. And so now that's been fun because like once in a while people ask me about all the information for like algorithmic trading. That's a little bit, but in here I think it's a lot of technical teaching and a lot of options teaching. Like people are super interested the same way people are interested in penny stock trading of like, oh, I like these big percentage gains. I think that's what's attractive about options trading. So in here, like I try to teach like as I'm showing them, like I'm buying this, selling this. We're talking about theta, vega, delta. So that's kind of how it's always just transforming, almost like the way it quickly transforms with the market. But my history is it's almost strongly algorithmic trading, and then just for like, and I guess I could use those, but like when you get into algorithmic trading, it's in the world of like, hey, I got 20% in this year. Like it's much more of like the hedge fundy, like we're looking for realistic numbers. While I don't know, that doesn't transform to the best content of, hey guys, like you watch me per month and I have like a 1.5% gain. So for this, it's way more fun when we're all looking at the penny stocks, the short squeeze, the options trading, that type of stuff.
Yeah, that's something that I ran into, and I would post stock videos here and there, and like you said, people don't really care about the 8% return, 10% return annually. So that's just how it goes. So do you have like results on your algorithms? Like do you post results on that? Like how well they're doing?
So actually in those videos, I even posted the code for it so people can legitimately like back test it themselves and see how it's going. And then I have one for the oils market, gold market, and then the S&P 500. There's a couple others, but yeah, so they're in there and it could all be back tested. When I was posting those videos, I would give the updates. And what was cool about it is some of them, I thought like what would be more fun at that point is me calling out trades in the future. So I would do seasonality. So basically I would back test and be like, hey, the weakest point in March are these 3 days. I'm going to short the market. I would make the video 2 weeks earlier and then make a follow up on how it did. And like, it did well, especially because like we think options are leveraged, but the futures market is even more leveraged. So if you're a little bit right, that's a lot of money. If you're a little bit wrong, that's also a lot of money. So like I thought that was fun, but like I think the barrier to entry was too high. Not only am I talking about algorithmic trading, but also the futures market. Most of us aren't approved to do futures trading. So like it wasn't the best medium for it, but no, all that code's still there. It's still available to like kind of everyone if they like want to check it out. But it's cool, it's fun. Um, just not YouTube hasn't been the best medium for it.
Wow. So how many subscribers were you at like 2 months ago?
2 months ago, late January, I remember being on my friend with my phone of, hey, it would be awesome if I could hit 12,000, but I think my realistic goal is 11.5. And me just being a coder, I'm like always mapping it out at that and that stuff. And then what had happened was, so if you watched it in my old videos, we were just talking about a stream of this, of like how like just awkward I am. Like I'm not good on camera. I freeze up, just whatever's going on. So I did live streaming to work on my presentation and my public speaking. I'm like, hey, if I have a shot, this is how we're going to do it. So I was live streaming every Sunday, a market wrap up the previous week and then a week forward of like blah, blah, blah. So
Mhm.
when AMC and GME started first running, at first I didn't know it was a short squeeze on Gamestop. So I actually bought some put options, got blown out of the water. I'm like, what's going on? So I bought calls, got into it. It was a fun time. But I was so excited about what was going on. It was a Wednesday. I was like, I don't have time to film this video. And then I was like, all right, let's just live stream it. And it was the exact day that Apple and Tesla had their earnings announcement. So I was like, oh, I'll just live stream that. And I got really, really lucky because Elon ended up pushing his call back by a half hour. So as I'm sitting on stream, we're all talking just like this. Everyone's like, what's going on? And as I'm waiting for Elon to get on for Tesla's earnings announcement, Wall Street Bets Reddit got shut down in that lucky half hour push. So I was like, guys, let's talk about it. And obviously people were super interested in what was going on. And then that was kind of like the start of the start, I should say. So at that point, I was at 12,000. And then it was just like a snowball effect since late January. Like February, I think was a month of just like all the lucky stars in my life aligned. And then when people talk about social media and being vulnerable and stuff, I think with each stream, like I've become closer and closer to myself, just like my goofy self. Like we're always talking about just space apes, my duck shirt, my chairs, and all that stuff.
Right.
At first, my original videos, I think I was fitting into a person that wasn't me, and I think that's part of the reason why it was so awkward because like it wasn't the true me, and like obviously people are vulnerable when they open themselves up because like what if people don't like your personality? But right now we just have
Right.
11,000 people who put up with my antics. Some people absolutely hate it, other people love it, but that's just the roll
Yeah,
of the
that's how it
die.
goes. Yeah, same here. Trey's Trades is a perfect example of that. He's just 100% himself, and people absolutely love it.
Yeah, definitely. So with so you said you had 2 years on your YouTube. Like obviously we all go through cycles of like plateaus and growth. What were some of your massive cycles of like growth in there? Like what was going on?
So it took me a year to get 3,000 subscribers. So
Okay.
it took a long time to start. Mostly, maybe I was hard headed or something like that. I was also only posting one video a week, but it was like a very intensive video. I would do like a 5-6 week marketing experiment on my business and then post the experiment and the results and things like that. So I thought they were interesting, but they were just too niche. Not enough people knew about it. Basically, if someone would watch, it would do, they would watch it for a long time, but just not that many people were interested from face value. And then about a year in, I was this was right after the pandemic started, and this is when the Paycheck Protection Program came out.
Mhm.
And owning a business myself, I was looking at how the program worked, what you need to do to apply, and I was like, man, this thing is so complicated. Like, how can anyone figure this out? So I spent like all evening one evening figuring this out, and I was like, I should just film a video on this since I just spent all this time. I can help other people out. So I posted that video, and that video just took off like better than any video I've done before. I'm like, oh, maybe there's something here. So then I focused more and more on that, on just trying to like simplify these financial news topics that are just inherently confusing. And in the first month after maybe a month and a half after I started focusing on like financial news and making things more simplified and more general topics, I think I got like 40,000 subscribers in that like month and a half period. And then I was like, which is small compared to your growth, which also congratulations. That's
Thank you.
that's absolutely insane. And then after that, it was just, pounding the ground for the last year and just, growing it every month slowly by bit, basically.
Yeah, I'm sure you could definitely appreciate this, isn't it? Sometimes of just like you see those metrics in YouTube, and like it's just all that extra pressure. At least how I feel. Like you're always seeing it because it's telling you if you're up, if you're down, and you're like, oh, he's just trying to like, of course, beat the previous month. And I guess the way I see it is like I in terms of percentage growth, I definitely top ticked it in February. Like the chance of me repeating those numbers, like I'm ready
Right.
for that emotional fall down of like, well, it was fun while
Yep.
it lasted.
Yep. I had that exact same thing where, yeah, like I said, I went from like 3,000 subscribers to like 43 or something like that. And and then that happens and you're thinking, this is my life now. This is how good things are going to
Yeah.
be. And then you get checked by reality. And then, eventually things slow down a bit and you're like, okay, yep, this is life again.
I
But then
feel
you keep working on it, putting out good stuff, and it works out in the end.
Yeah, I feel like it's honestly almost not that different of what's going on with GameStop and AMC. We saw this like it all shot up and then we're like, "Oh, cool, this is life." We're seeing 50,
Yep.
80, 100% gains and then it comes down and I think it psychologically sucked us all back in when we saw the secondary spike, not as much. So I guess going off of that, like obviously these stocks are very much playing with our emotions, but what are your thoughts? I was talking with Andrew Mo Money a little bit yesterday on specifically GME, but what's your humble opinion? And remember, everyone, guys, this is not financial advice. We are just talking about our own opinions on it. Please don't make any trades based on what we're doing. But like, where do you see GameStop and AMC realistically going?
So I do have a position in both, but also I should say they're very small relative to my whole portfolio. So I wouldn't have a position in them of anything that I'm not willing to risk. And my initial investment in the two was just kind of to be a part of it. Not because of like any fundamental financials or anything like that. As much as I think AMC has a price, the price isn't super unjustified. I think in the long run, no matter what the price is in the next month, in the long run, it'll be fine. With GameStop, it's a little bit more. I'm not 100% sure. It depends on if they can do that online transition or not. I know it's hard to pivot any business, but for AMC, a realistic price. I mean, we've been in the 20s not that long ago. I don't think it's completely unrealistic to hit the 20s again, and anything above that is just amazing. GameStop kind of the same with 200, 250. I don't think that's unrealistic. I mean, both of those we could see happen in one day, in one crazy day.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, from a technical perspective, I've been looking at those gap fills, AMC up to 1291 and GameStop up to 212. So kind of mapping out the numbers that you were just discussing. Like, I think they're real, but it's just tough because like I think it needs to stay in the news cycle. I think people need to stay interested in like we all sum it up by just saying diamond hands, but realistically what that
Right.
represents, people like they can't be selling like it people need to stay interested. And I fully understand that it's also most of the money is hedge funds fighting other hedge funds. Like we're the
Right.
minnow along for the ride. But it'll be interesting. Um do you subscribe to that the what we're seeing on Wall Street Bets of like the big push happening like March 19th or the week leading up to March 19th? Are you holding your breath on that? Do you think that's like D-Day in a positive way for us, or do you think that not really?
So I would say yes and no. So I guess starting with the nose, it seems like every week there's some day that's like Thursday's the day, Friday's the day because X, Y, and Z has happened. So a little, part of me in the back of my mind feels like it's kind of like the X that you keep going back to, where you're like, we've been hurt before, we've had these expectations before, and but this is like the ultimate version of that. I was talking to Andrew Moe about this briefly because he was breaking down the quadruple witching to me, which I saw on your channel. You posted a video like 10 months ago about quadruple witching, so you're well versed in this.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think no matter what, there's going to be hype built around that day. But what I wondered if it's going to be a situation where it's like the buy the hype, sell the news kind of deal, where if the 19th is the day, is the price actually going to peak on the 16th or the 17th, and then to actually decrease on the 19th because the day's there. So I kind of have that wonder and worry in the back of my head, which would be good for anyone who's holding right now. You'd be
Yeah.
fine right now.
No, I agree with that. In a weird way, it's almost a warped by the rumor sell the news type of deal. Because like if we're all in anticipation, or even when we've seen a bit of like all these people on Reddit of like buy one at one of when they're doing it, it's like you just see everyone kind of front running it because they want the position beforehand. So like I wonder if it's going to be like if this news and everyone interested in it will cause an earlier spike, like if it's almost pushing it. And hey, I'm down for it. Like I'm down for both of these kind of to run whenever. Like I have a position in both, so I'm here for the fun times. Definitely will diamond hand it if necessary. To pivot it a little bit, what is your new take on rocket companies? What's going on with that?
Oh man. I mean, I've never really paid attention to them until yesterday. So it's just always weird whenever you see a company just absolutely pop off. I mean, taking a look at it right now, I'm not surprised that it's, down 40% or not 40, 24% right now. After seeing that huge run up. The question is, will the hype stay around this? I mean, the short interest is fairly high. I'm not sure if it's high enough for a squeeze scenario. But I don't know. It's hard to say. What is the volume looking like? The volume's actually kind of low right now, which is a little bit surprising to me. So this is just completely, in my opinion, if there's enough hype, we could see this thing really run up like a GameStop. But are enough people talking about this, I guess, is the question.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's the same. Well, really, all three of them. And I don't think that Rocket Companies is the new meme stock. I think they inherently have a different driver of what's going on. Um, but in the end, what I've been talking to my chat about is like, it's just, we're obviously you're in the stock market. The goal is to make money, and you don't, it's not like meme stocks are the only way to make money. But RKT, yeah, like if it were a GME or an AMC, when those ran, they ran even more the next day and the next day and the next day. Day two for rocket companies, like unfortunately, I mean, I have some calls on it, so I'm definitely paying the price right now. But it's just, I don't know, there's not that follow through. What I thought was interesting about this one is the CEO is like actively on like a short squeeze size. Like he's announcing like the special dividend payment. Like he's said all these things just about how like short sellers are like the worst people ever. It's weird to have a CEO who's so outspoken and either speaking right now or it just concluded. I think he was talking with Morgan Stanley about something. So I don't know what's going on with that, but I have a feeling it was still pretty anti short seller.
Yeah, I wonder if that's almost like a reverse psychology, like let's get this price run up so that we can refactor some debt, sell off some corporate shares at the peak, refactor some debt or whatever, their thoughts maybe are. But I mean, as a CEO, you almost would want that that squeeze to happen, especially if you're in a tough financial situation, just like AMC did. They took care of some of their debt when the price was running up. So it's like it can be the saving grace. I'm not sure about the financial situation of Rocket. I haven't really dove into it too much. Are you familiar?
Um, well, overall, they actually reported their most recent quarter, which also wrapped up the fiscal year of 2020, was like a very solid one. And really, in my opinion, of what started it was the pushing the interest rates down. Since so much of their money comes from mortgages, when with interest rates low, that's obviously good for their business. So they had a nice, like I guess, political development. They did surprisingly well in 2020. It's like a sound business, and then it just got wrapped up for yesterday. It was the most talked about thing on Wall Street Bets. So I think it was more of like a perfect storm situation. I'm just curious to see if there's like any follow through on it. I want to know how it's really going to play out.
I wonder why it's so highly shorted for having a good earnings report. It was actually the most traded company yesterday, I believe. At least on Fidelity, it was.
Yesterday, I think like it was a bunch of FOMO. I think a lot of people like it hit their scanners of like it's up this percent. I mean, yesterday again like 70%. So midday when it was up 30 was so huge and people started running. And there were some news articles saying like the new meme stock. Like I think the news cycle like was pushing it a bit as well. But I don't
Right.
know. Like it's overpriced now. Well, maybe not now at 31. This morning when it was closer to 50, but
Hmm.
overpriced in the short term and the long term are two very different things. I mean, we saw that with GameStop, AMC. Just because something's fundamentally overvalued doesn't mean that it can't run still for a day, 2 days, a week, or anything like that.
Right. I mean, even correction wise, there's the potential for the run up here if we're looking just from like yesterday. Let's see. We're only down from the very peak. We're down 61% right now. So I mean, even from that, it's not looking that bad. Maybe if you bought in on the run up, then it's looking pretty bad. Or if you bought in this morning, it's looking pretty bad. But from the start of, I guess not yesterday, but a few days ago, it's looking pretty good still.
Yeah, I mean, people who've been long-term investors, they're obviously they still have to be up on it, like they're doing well. So I
Oh
don't
yeah.
think they're complaining at all. I am a bit surprised about how much bearish momentum we have going on today. Like as we're speaking right now, it's dipping to a new intraday low, but it looks like GameStop is going a bit sideways. So is AMC. I don't know. Maybe the overall market's having a bit of a problem. I know. Oh, actually, maybe you could clarify a couple things for chat. So I saw you were talking
Sure.
about some of the fiscal deal going on. Are you expecting the, I guess, package to hit the Senate floor today? Like, do you think we'll get a vote on that?
Well, until like 5 in the morning the next day. So we're going to see that after the 20-hour debate. So it's like, even if it starts today, it's not even going to be done until tomorrow and actually voted on. And then once it gets voted on, um, no matter what, it'll be sent back to the House in some form. But at the very least, it'll be sent back without that minimum wage increase back to the House, where they'll have to vote on it again, and then to the president, where he'll approve it.
Interesting. So really, like, it might be the process of voting might start today, but it's still like a long journey ahead for this to actually become anything.
Yeah, the actual vote probably won't happen today, but the session might start today. So there'll just be like this
Uh,
C-SPAN marathon of they'll debate on X, Y, and Z, this verbiage here, this, that, and they'll vote on individual amendments, and then they do the vote-a-rama, and then the actual vote. So there's a lot to do, before that. I guess I can see if it's scheduled.
So my initial like knee-jerk reaction is the day it's looks like it's going to pass or is announced that it's passing, that we'll see a spike in the overall market just because that's what we've seen previously. Do you like kind of agree with that, or do you think that, oh, if they come in low we could actually see a sell-off? Or
Yeah, so I think once the Senate passes it, we'll see a spike. Um, I might. I mean, if you're well versed in kind of the political system, you know what to expect before they even vote. So, like the
mm,
House bill, I could say with 99% certainty that they were going to pass it beforehand, just because I'm so familiar with it now. So I wonder if the market will see an uptick before it even is officially voted on. But absolutely, the market will go up as a result of the stimulus bill, and probably before Biden actually signs it into law. Because if it gets to his desk, it's already considered a done deal.
okay, yeah, just the expectations, that makes sense. So the way I was thinking about it is like, let's say that happens, I don't know, let's just say a month for the ease of this discussion, and then we see things like Texas opening up. Like, whether it's smart or not, and obviously this doesn't have to get political with chat, but just like as more and more stuff's opening up, like I think just in general there'll be more of like a euphoric push of like, all right, stimulus coming in, the world's opening back up. I think we'll see that euphoria carry the market higher.
Yeah, we definitely could. It's a weird time that we're sitting in right now. If you look at pretty much any indicator of like overvaluation, they're like screaming overvalued. But we're seeing this situation where sentiments have changed. More people than ever are investing in stocks and having more of a risk tolerance to stocks, and don't really care about like a net income return on their stocks. They just, it's like greater fool's theory. They're just betting that if I buy it $8, someone else is going to buy it back at $12. We're seeing a lot of that. We're seeing more money in the system than ever through things like stimulus, people who just have cash sitting there. We saw when the markets dipped a little bit like last week, there was that like just real quick V, like it dipped down. There was some deals, and they just got gobbled up like in a second. So that I was just like, wow, there's a lot of cash sitting on the sidelines right now, ready to deploy. So the combination of those things, and there's not really a good alternative to stocks right now. You look at bond rates, they're increasing. They're like 1.4% for a 10-year bond right now. That's nothing still after increasing. And if you look back 20, 30 years, there's always been this alternative, stocks or bonds, is kind of like this inverse relationship to each other. Bonds aren't even an option right now. Real estate's really expensive. You have crypto, but there's a lot of people who feel it's too volatile to maybe have a large position in it. So you're still just left with stocks. Even if they're overvalued, it's still kind of the best investment right now. So I think we'll still see some form of run up for a while before there's a correction. But of course, who knows exactly?
Yeah, no, I like definitely what you said there. It makes a lot of sense to me. Do you, in the long term, though, have concerns? Like, obviously, over the past year, with the stock market doing so well, there's a big disconnection between the stock market and the economy. Do you think we're just kicking the can down the road and we'll have to pay a pretty hefty bill at some point just in the future? Or what do you think is going to happen between this disconnection? Because like if you pull up the unemployment rate, the jobless claims, all that, the numbers are still decently high, but yet the
Mhm.
stock market is essentially pushing a new all-time high. What do you think And I know obviously none of this is perfectly predicted, but like, is that a
Right.
concern of yours for just being a long-term investor of like what's going to happen with all this couple of years down the road?
Yeah. So back at like the end of summer, I talked about this so many times about how the market just does not make sense right now. With unemployment being so high, back then the GDP was seeing a big decline still, and it just didn't make sense. But then I just kind of gave up on trying to make sense on it, trying to make sense out of it, and I think it's going to keep running up. Ultimately in the long term, there's going to be some price to pay. The Fed is kind of says like, don't worry, don't worry too much because they're going to keep interest rates so low. But I mean, interest rates eventually will rise at least to some degree, and once those rise, that means all this federal deficit that we have is going to have to be paid off, and the only way to pay that off is by increasing taxes. So, in the long run, you do pay for it. I think their tools have gotten a little bit better, since like the '70s when inflation was just crazy high. They claim their tools have at least gotten a lot better because inflation has been much more stable since around mid 1985. But I'm always thinking like we have to be concerned not to think that we're all knowing right now, because odds are in 2060 we're going to think, oh, our tools back in 2021 were terrible, like we didn't know what we were doing. So we have to kind of like remember right now will be the dumb era at some point in the future. So yeah, in the long term will there'll be some form of some way to pay for what's going on right now.
Gotcha. No, no, that makes a lot of sense. I agree with what you're saying. 26, like at some point we'll be like, wow, how were we making those decisions? That was silly. Obviously, we'll always figure it out the way we look back 40 years ago now. It's like hopefully we're always just trending upward. Interesting input. When we were talking about like AMC clearing their debt, we're getting some questions coming through in chat. Do you think GameStop is like a might like they were talking about potentially partnering or acquiring with some like other esports company, esports gambling, something like that? Do you think that they might like reestablish some of their debt and shares to acquire another company? Do you think that's in the cards, or do you think it's wishful thinking on all of us like Space Apes part?
I mean, it definitely could be. It seems that Ryan Cohen is willing to take some aggressive steps and make that pivot. I'm not 100% sure how much cash on hand or how large of a purchase they could make, but it seems to be the right play. I know Kramer was saying that they should be like a Bitcoin marketplace, which that's also an interesting concept as well, to kind of be both crypto and GameStop. That could help their hype even
Hmm.
more. It definitely, it'd be smart to do something like that, I think.
I think it would be cool. Like I think there's a lot of things that would have to go in the back end to make that a possibility. But I wasn't too aware about the crypto thing. I knew more about like the esports. Uh, Interesting potential for sure. It's just like obviously they have to somehow make it happen, and I'm sure with them. They're trying to make all these moves when the stock price is higher and higher. Like it's tough for them to like jockey for that type
Right.
of position when they're trading sub 50. But when you fast forward a week and they're double, triple that value, it's like it's just such a quickly dynamic changing environment for them. And I don't know, it seems like a very interesting business case study of how to pull it off at the right time.
Yeah, now would be definitely the time to do it while the price is high. I kind of feel for the CEO of GameStop because at one point his stock value went from like $20 million worth of value in GameStop stock to like 750 million. But being the CEO, you can't really cash out because that looks bad for the company.
Yeah.
So this guy was sitting there like, I'm sitting on $750 million and I can't do anything with it right now. And he knows like he's a better idea than anyone what a realistic or a long-term price for GameStop is. I don't think anyone is saying GameStop should be trading at $500 forever. I think
Hmm.
everyone's just saying it'll spike up and then come settle back at something more reasonable. So when it was up at like $400, he was just like, man, I wish I
Just
could sell
can't do
some of
it.
this.
We're forcing the CEO to diamond hand it himself, whether he wants to or not. Speaking of which, just quick update for everyone: GameStop trading at 120 right now at support. AMC at 885. RKT Rocket is doing the opposite of what a rocket does, trading sub 30, which means that my call options are being devastated. Obviously, everyone in chat knows that. So just quick update there. But man, are you seeing what's going on with rocket companies, Max? Like it is,
Yeah,
it's
I
not
got it
good.
up on my I got it up on my screen right here. Yeah, I know there. I had a few people over in my stream who said they hopped in right at open, and I was like, "Oh, okay." You never really know what's going to happen right after open, but I mean, we'll see what happens by the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a brutal sell off, but then again, like we saw like these stocks, just because it goes up one day, down one day, like the next day, even the second half of the trading day, things can change so quickly. Like right now, obviously the trend is definitely bearish, especially when it snapped below that 32 area. But from a technical level coming down, but it's weird. GameStop, AMC sideways, both low volume. Even these ones, like when we saw it, what was it, at the end of last week when they picked up, all that volume in those days came in that last half hour. So like I feel part of my heart is always like holding out for that, even though I know the odds of it are low. But I don't know. We're always, I think every day it feels like we're just throwing a Hail Mary for these meme stocks. Like that's just like what it is. Like I try to explain to my chat,
Yeah.
the odds of this squeeze, the odds of it going our way are low. They're not zero, but they're low. Just trying to be realistic. And right now, RKT, man, still going down. I'm afraid to bring up my own portfolio.
Yeah, like you said, we're going for a Hail Mary every day, where I think we should be going for a first down every day. Let's just try to have a 5-10% day every single day for 20 days. And, that'd be the way to do it.
It definitely, I mean, because like we'd be slowly notching up the pain on all the shorts. I think that's the way to do it. It's just apparently the Wall Street and the retail public, that's not how they're looking to play this particular game, but I guess
Right.
that's how it is.
Yeah. Yeah. AMC, GameStop are so flat right now. I expected kind of more action today.
Yeah, I'm almost curious if now, like with that due diligence being so widespread for the 19th, if people are using this as like a burner week. And I know also we have AMC's earnings announcements coming up. Like, are people just, but anyone, I don't know, it's weird because it's kind of damaging to the options market because it's just premium burn days. That's all we're seeing, like all these essentially inside days hanging out right at support resistance. Like the options market is just, whether it's calls or puts, is just getting devastated by it when it's just not moving.
Hmm. Yeah, that's very true. I'm
But
not sure if this is accurate or not, but there's a bunch of people in the chat saying that my link doesn't work. I don't know.
oh, hang on, guys. I will update that. I don't. Hang on. Let me
No
switch it.
worries.
There's a quick
We're just
copy and
chilling
paste.
anyways, so it's no big deal.
Yeah, I definitely want to get Max's your YouTube up for everyone
No biggie whatsoever.
here.
Yeah, if there's any questions I can answer in the chat or anything like that too, I'd be happy to give my
Yeah, let's
thoughts on
definitely
them.
pivot to that. So, Discord chat, YouTube chat, guys, if you have any questions, send them to me. Obviously, we'll have a little bit of a delay, but if you guys have questions for Max of what's going on, I'm sure a lot of you people, if you're tuning into my channel, I'm sure a lot of you are already aware of Max's channel. So this is your opportunity to shoot your shot if you have any questions. Let's see if
Shoot
anything's
that
coming
shot.
through.
Caveman Capital.
All right.
I'll put it in the chat as well. I just put a link to my channel, I
Okay.
think.
Other people are saying now that the link works. So I changed it, but this one, the new link, right to your videos. But check it out.
Oh, okay. Cool.
The link works for me. Works for me. Okay, guys, let's see. Oh, okay. In the meantime, while we're waiting for some of these other questions, the two popular ones. What do you do with your hair? They have a lot of hair questions. They want to know how you take care of it, and also, what are your thoughts on your chair? How much? I guess that's just it. I don't know where they're going with the chair question, but so hair and chair. Let's get your thoughts on those two.
So I do very little with the hair. I wash it twice a week. That's about there's very little. Might not seem like it, but there's very little thought around the hair. And frankly, all you have to do is not cut it, and it just turns into this. So very little needed. And with the chair, I could have a better chair. I need it. If I'm going to be sitting in this thing all day, I should probably have a better chair.
All right, so guys, the tips for hair is less is more, and chair. He's going up for that better chair. He's getting into the chair community. The chair joke on this channel has gotten so far out of hand that I don't know how I'm not going to be sponsored by a chair company at some point.
That's how I feel about shampoo, but yet they haven't reached out yet.
All right, we do have one. Who was this one? I'm trying to just snag some of these. So this one comes from Quint Allen. How do you feel about the possible divergence from AMC GME trading together? Will this occur at what point?
Are you able to do like an overlay there on your screen? I'm not
I
sure
can.
if there's
It'll just get messy with these
no,
four. Yeah, so I could do that later.
no worries. I'm not sure how much it has diverged, but I know that there was a lot of conspiracy in the past that they're trading alike because of short ladder attacks and things like that. And people just seem to get mad at me every time I say this, but I don't think it's that deep. I think it's just simply you have GameStop, you have AMC, you have the same group of investors looking at both. The people who are hopping into AMC like AMC either because they like that company more or the share price is lower, it's easier to hop in, and they just trend, they trend with each other. I don't think it's personally, I just don't think it's that deep. But the divergence, I mean, I guess I can't say to why there might be a divergence. Maybe because people have kind of chosen the one that they want to go with. Like I find a lot of times on my streams, almost 90% of people are like AMC. So I'm sure on other streams they're like all GameStop. So then maybe there's just separate groups of people doing slightly different things now. That would be my guess.
Gotcha. That actually kind of goes well into this next one. If you could only pick AMC or GameStop, which would you pick? And I guess you could answer that in short or long term, or I guess both.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say AMC because it's been here before. The price has been there just from regular business operations. My thoughts with AMC is I would love to see a squeeze, but worst case scenario, I hold on for 3-4 years. I'll probably make my money back. So I kind of have always had that plan B backup plan where GameStop we could see GameStop turn into this massive player. I don't want to say that that's impossible, but there's more of a risk, I think in seeing that transition happen to whatever, their goals are and see it successful.
Gotcha. All right, this one just got sent in. If on your screen you could pull up UWMC, it was a big runner today. What do you think
Yeah,
about that?
I got that up here on mine. So that's kind of like the rocket companies, but is a little bit of a winner today. They're up 12% right now. Um, might not be bad. There might be people hopping in. Oh, the volume. Let me see what the volume's looking like. Um, the volume's
Volume?
actually pretty high. Oh, at least in the last 2 minutes ago, it was high. Right now, it's having a little bit of a run up, but it could be the rocket of the day, I guess.
Yeah, so I'm seeing the daily volume thus far is 70 million, and its average volume over the past day is 7. So definitely interest, but
Wow.
it was just like such a gap up. I mean, it came down, quickly filled that gap. Looks like it's bending back around. Interesting. I mean, it has potential. I never caught the news cycle. Do we know why it gapped up? Did you catch of like what was the thing that caught like the catalyst that pushed it up like this?
For this UWM,
Yeah.
I think it's a competitor to Rocket.
Okay, so it's just almost a sympathy play to like these mortgages.
I think so, but their short interest is only like a third of what Rocket is, I believe.
Gotcha.
So it's not. I just searched UWM and I got University of Wisconsin, so I don't think that's what I'm looking for.
Um, okay. This is another one that just came in. Two-parter. Or here, let's do the second part for what is your favorite long-term stock if you can only pick one?
My favorite long term. What time frame do we want to say? Because it
Long-term, let's
changes a
do
little bit.
5 to 10 years, 5 years.
Right now, there's very few bargains. My favorite one is Tyson Foods, which every time I say that, people are like, "What? Tyson Foods? Yeah, I've never heard anything about them as far as like an investment." But I think it's a very good value play that we'll see, probably within 5 years, an 80 to 100% return. If we were talking 30 years, I'd probably just buy more Berkshire Hathaway.
Okay. So really just picking the one that picks all the best investments. I like that.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
ZNGA, what is your thoughts on that one?
I actually have a position in them. I don't even know how many shares I have. I don't have much in way of thoughts on. To be honest, I haven't really like dove into their financials or anything like that. So I don't want to give any opinions that I don't have, some kind of firm education on.
Gotcha. All right, let me see if there's a couple more questions coming through Discord. Taking a bit to load. Hang on. Let me go back to AMC. AMC picking up a bit right now. Everyone put $9. Just such a clear level of supply for everyone. All right. Uh, Discord, if you are listening to me, what are your questions for Max? Just send them into, a channel. Oh, this one. Do you ever trade options?
No, I'm not a big options guy, mostly because I I have plenty of cash to trade with. Like that's not the issue. So I'm just like I might as well just buy the share if I'm going to buy it. Maybe I should do more of it. I guess I should watch more of your videos to become an expert in it.
I don't know if I would use that word, but thanks. So you would say most of your thing is investing either in stocks or crypto at the moment. That's like kind of where you're putting your money in the, I guess, investing world.
Well, even crypto, I don't have a very big position right now because I've just been waiting for a good buy-in. Um, up in so I've been saving for the longest time to actually just buy a business like completely.
Mhm.
Uh, and I'm just waiting for a good deal. So every month or so, I'm pretty much talking to like some business owner, some broker to see if this deal I'm looking at is the perfect deal. But I'm looking for like a local business that does between 10 and $15 million a year in revenue to purchase, and just make that part of my portfolio. Like that's what I
Ah.
understand the best, and I would just like to wholly own some company doing that range, and it's probably between 2 and $4.5 million a year in net income.
Whoa, that is awesome. So much more of just like the whole entrepreneurial spirit you have going there. That's really cool. Now, are you targeting like a specific business sector, or no? You're just looking at like its revenue. Is it a solid business? Like you don't necessarily care about a sector.
I do care about the sector because I want it to be something that I understand. I have this big sheet that, I mean, I guess I could share it if people listening are curious enough. But this big sheet of criteria that I ask myself when looking at a business. So I like real simple businesses. I'm looking for one that the primary workforce makes more than $50,000 per year. So like on the higher paid side, um, something that's a staple. So like an example of this is electrical contractors kind of pique my interest a lot because they make a ton of money per employee. Their workforce is trained well, and that's like their career, is electrician. You get large contracts. You can have residential projects. There's tons of large players, and there's the opportunity to buy competitors up. There's tons of potentials there to grow. Now I know that's probably not exciting for a lot of people, but I like the staple industries that if a pandemic happens, there's still going to be electrical
Mhm.
contractors.
On that rundown list, what would you say are like the top 3 to 5 that like right away you're just like naturally attracted to checking out of if it's a good slash bad business?
So I love reoccurring sales. So if there's any form of like contracts in place or reoccurring clients, that's a great sign. I love seeing net income above 12% of total revenue. That means that it's a on the very profitable side of operations. I make sure that there's no three competitors that make up more than 66% of their revenue, or no one competitor that makes up more than 33% of their revenue. If that if that's not the case, I'm done with that company. Um, I'm looking for one that has good systems in place. That's, the owner is fairly absentee. That way I can, once I hop in, I can make decisions on a higher level. So that'd be like the big few that I look for.
That's very cool. I like that. I have some follow up questions on that, but first one, your thoughts on the EV sector, and do you have any EV stocks?
I do not have any EV stocks. So I like the industry. It's just I just need to sit down for an entire day, do my diligence, and find the one that I think is the winner. I like a company like Tesla, but I just don't know if the value is justified right now, if the price is justified. Same with Neo. I'm just not sure price wise. But I like the industry. Same with the flower industry. It's kind of the exact
Mm.
same thing to me. Where I like the industry. I think it has a ton of potential. But what's that company that is priced well, is well positioned, and is most likely to really take off?
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think if I had to throw some money in like a multi-year hold, I think the EV industry is strong. I think the cannabis industry is strong. I think esports, like I just see the revenues of the industry as a whole growing over and over. Like when people ask me, especially new to this world, they say find an ETF that matches that industry that you like, put your money in it, and just let it ride. Like it takes, I think, a lot of it. If you don't want to spend hours a day looking at charts, day trading options, like I think that's a good. Just pick a winning industry that you believe in 5, 10 years down the road, sit in that ETF and like go on running your businesses.
Yeah, that's definitely for most people. That's the way to do it. Absolutely.
With
Is there?
your, oh, sorry, what was that?
I was just going to ask, is there an EV that you really like right now, or that you're invested in?
So I'm invested in a few of them. I mean, EV. When I find a sector I like, if I'm not, well, so I am in some of those ETFs like RQ, Kathy Wood's thing. But also, if I had to pick an individual company, to me it makes sense to pick the leading one in that industry, which at this moment in time is Tesla. Um,
Mhm.
so Tesla, if you look at their PE, it is like you could fundamentally say it's overvalued, but then Elon, he understands the internet at a level most people don't, so he has an
Right.
amazing narrative. So he himself like has the power to push it higher and higher. They're one of these first movers into crypto. It's just weird because I don't think there's any model out there that can accurately describe what's going on with Tesla, because you have so many new people in the world of trading who are looking at its potential, and then you have old school people looking at how did it do in the last quarter, how did it do in the trailing 4 quarters, 8 quarters, whatever have you. So it's a weird in between, but I got fortunate. I think my cost basis on Tesla right now is actually below 400 a share. So like I feel like I'm far enough away from my risk point that like I'm at now at the point where I can let it ride. At a point I was down, and a point when it was break even, it was some interesting days. I was like, all right, Tesla, like we got to get somewhere. But I was fortunate enough front running its addition to the S&P 500 that like I'm now good on those shares. In terms of other one, it's weird. Neo, I like it. I like the market it's in, but you never know what's going on politically between us and China. So I think there's like an extra complexity in there. CCIV, I know, just got absolutely hammered because the valuation came in at double what everyone was expecting it. But if we're still talking long term, it's the luxury EV. I think there's a big demand for that in the US. So Lucid Motors, like, I mean, right now CCIV is getting hammered, but if we're looking at a 5, 10 year road, like it's tough for me to see how they could be trading less than what they're at now years down the road. So I like that strong EV play. Um, Workhorse just got absolutely annihilated by not getting the USPS contract. I am seeing, though, people in chat were saying that the USPS is somehow like trying to reopen discussions with the government. So if they do that, the stock could shoot back up. But I don't know, these strong, especially like American US based EV plays, I just don't see how they can't win. But there's also so many that I really think it's easier just to pick up RQ and call it a day. Like
Yeah.
if you don't have the time to do the analysis on Hyliion, Workhorse, Tesla, Neo, blah blah blah, like the list goes on and on. FSR, like there's just so many. Cool, just buy the ETF. Like you spend 30 minutes googling the top EV based ETFs, and then you move on with your life. So for people who don't want to do this day in and day out, that's my like shout out. Same thing even with esports. I view that as just like, oh, okay, buy ESPO. That's a strong esports ETF. Move on with your life. Great.
Right. Yeah, I should buy more ETFs like that. Do you have any thoughts on BYD, the Chinese electric car maker?
Yeah, so I've been looking at it. Today we picked up Li Auto and Xpeng as well. And with it, and the way I think that like I don't know. I guess the best way for me to articulate it is the way I think a lot of these companies in the US are chasing Tesla. I think these other ones are at this point chasing Neo in the Chinese market. I do think there'll be multiple winners. So like I don't think the same thing as crypto. I don't think we have to pick the perfect EV company, because I think there's many that are going to be successful. Even the way right now we have gasoline powered cars, there's multiple companies that we all like buy and trust in. I think the same thing will happen for EV. Um but with it, I think the winner is to really just play the industry. In some of my older videos, when I would get into more of like the weeds with these EVs, the growth rate of the EV sector right now for global vehicle sales, EVs are 2 to 3%. By 2025, the lower end estimate is 10%, higher end is between like kind of pushing 18. And then they think by 2030, we could be even pushing 30% of global vehicle sales. And really what it is, it's all the fulcrum of the situation. The linchpin is really in the batteries of, can we hit a price parity with gasoline vehicles? As soon
Mhm.
as they're the same, like the price, like at that point you'll see that demand inflection really just pick up like hockey stick growth. And that's what Kathy Wood is always beating her drum about, is just like, hey, we're waiting for this moment. And that's why they always have sky high estimates for really Tesla, but all these EV companies for 5 years down the road, because they think it's a
Right.
year or two till we hit price parity. So like maybe I'm being overly optimistic, but like I think the industry is going to be pretty strong 5, 10 years down the road. By the end of this decade, I think EV will be it's pretty dominant now, but I think it'll be a very dominant force.
I agree. So do you think that we'll see a situation where prices increase for 5, 7, 10 years. And then after 10 years, once EV is just common, they're not really that exciting new thing anymore, comes back down to earth, like a Ford Motors or something like that is now. Because, it's not going to be the hype forever. So is it a situation where it's like maybe buy now, hold for 7 years, sell, and, as the hype goes away and things come back down to reality?
Yeah, I think that could definitely happen because you never know what the new awesome technology. Like, I don't think technology will peak at electric vehicles. So it's the same thing of like if we went back 100 years, you don't just keep investing in the fastest horse breed because eventually cars come in. Like, I think we're gonna have a whole new from EVs. I don't know. Are we gonna go to like levitating cars? Like, is that gonna be the new thing? Like, obviously, there's always gonna be a big technological disruption. I obviously I have no way of predicting will that will be, but like and I think it's going to come faster and faster. I think we're at a weird inflection point in technology as a whole that things the progression of it, like we see it, it's just so fast that I think the world, everyone on chat, you and I are experiencing now to the day that we die, I think the world will look almost like so insanely different that we won't even imagine
Right.
what it is. Like, I don't even know if our brain will comprehend what it's going to look like when we're like, unfortunately, all on our deathbed. I think it's going to be so insanely different.
Right. So what's the most hyped moon monkey stock here? Like, what's the one that you primarily focus on?
So right now, there's obviously a lot of interest in AMC and GME, but I try to, I guess, cover to my channel that like we're more of like the market news, what's the big movers. So like I'm trying to not tie like all of us like space apes to an individual one. It's like what's going on. So like right now, that's why I have SOS up on the screen. It's a more of a
Yep.
smaller like Bitcoin related one or crypto one, I should say. Crypto's running, SOS is doing well. So with it, I would say it's more of like the market news, technical analysis, fundamental analysis. I see a lot of excitement though in chat. Like we have a lot of diamond-handed people in GameStop, AMC, and it's interesting almost data points for me, like going back to my like computer science days of like, I feel like there's enough people in here where I get like a good sample size of what the general retail public's in, and they are holding very tight. Like the diamond
Yeah.
hands in this group, and I think like just throughout the world of people who are like still just into the social movement of somehow trying to make Wall Street pay. It surprises
Right.
me on a day-to-day basis of like how much people are still into this movement.
So let's do a little market sample here in the chat. Just write what's the stock that you're most excited about? Just do the ticker symbol in the chat so we
Well,
can
here
see.
we can actually do it, guys. I'm gonna post a Twitter poll, and we'll get the exact
Okay, let's do
numbers.
that. That might be a better way to do it.
All right, hang on one second, guys. If you're in chat, please vote. So the
Just
three will
excited about.
do. Which we do? AMC, GME. Do you want to throw RKT into it or no?
Yeah, sure. Let's
All
throw
right.
Palantir in there too, because I've been hyped about Palantir.
All right. PLTR, guys, vote. Uh, bu- bu- bu.
A lot of GameStop, more than I expected in the
Pick
chat
your
here.
favorite. All right.
What are you most excited about?
Oops. This tweet. Your tweet was sent. All right, guys, I just tweeted that out. So if you guys could go to the Twitter page, it's right up above me at Matt_Kohrs. We would love to know your input on it of which one did this actually vote. I'm experiencing a little bit of lag, so let's kill some of these pages.
I have the same
AMC.
problem. 1.5 million tabs.
Yeah, it's just like when people are like, "Oh, check this out, check this out." It's just always so much. All right, we were getting a bit. Hang on, let me. I appreciate you guys putting it in the YouTube chat, but also don't forget, let's get the actual numbers in Twitter if you guys have a quick second to do that. While we're doing that, AMC is coming up, 885, GameStop holding 120. They're both flat on the day. Rocket, RKT going down. My account has to be annihilated at this point. Let's do that quick check.
Oh, no.
Down 3,000. I thought it would be down closer to 5. So I don't know. I'll count my lucky stars. Where are we on this one? Right now, AMC is winning. People disliking RKT. Palantir actually beating out Rocket. as of now on the initial votes.
Let's
Interesting.
go.
Max, you're switching some minds here.
Let's go. Oh, maybe we should do a little challenge since I'm still hyped about Palantir. Here, let's do a little challenge.
All right.
Okay. For every subscriber I get during this stream, I'll buy $1 of Palantir.
All right,
So
you
I'll
guys
write
just
down the number right now. So for every subscriber, I'll buy $1 worth of Palantir, and I'll do it whenever we're finishing up.
All right, you guys just heard that. To reiterate, for every subscriber he gets during this stream, he is buying $1 worth of Palantir. So that's fun. I like that.
They turn into a challenge. So right now it's 178,938. So we'll see. I'm having fun though.
Guys, Moon Gang, you know how you peer pressure me into buying stuff? You could do that to Max. You could spread that peer pressure stock market love.
Just don't go too crazy.
please, guys.
Please.
AMC 55%, GME. So really AMC, whenever I've done some of these polls before, and that's already 500 people voting. So I think that's a pretty good distribution. Oh, nice. But RKT, definitely the least. Good for us to know. I missed your chats. I'm sorry. Hang on. Let's go back to this. RKT still selling off. SOS at 830. AMC 885. Let's check in on Palantir. Let's see how that's doing. I would love to pick up some Palantir as close to 20 as possible. Down 1%, but mainly trading sideways on the day. Interesting.
Yeah, I think that's good. I hope it goes down 5% more.
I mean, I really don't see what would catch it all the way down to like 22-ish at like a minimum. Like I would be not chasing in on this. Like, of course they could always have some sort of fundamental development discussion, but like from a technical perspective, there's definitely bearishness in it. I see it coming down to 22, which so maybe I should have a buy order there in my own like account, maybe even in the public account, play some call options off of it. Palantir, I think it's a good company though. I think the run up, it got a little like cart in front of the horse situation, and now we're coming back down to earth. But let's see how that goes.
So do you happen to know what its peak price is? I don't have it in front of me.
Peak price intraday trading 45 might be a little bit different for pre and post market, but let's just call it 45.
Okay, so I just wanted to see what their price to sales was at its peak. So $45. I don't think there's enough zeros on this calculator to calculate that. I got to do it on my phone. 45 times 1.75 million, million shares. Okay, so at its peak, it had a market cap of 78 billion divided by sales is... Okay, so it had a price to sales of 72 at one point. Wow, it's at 40 now.
That's sky high. Have you ever checked on Shopify's? You might like have
it's like 98 or something. Dude, it's insane.
Yeah, I mean, at the one point, it was like thousands. It was just an ungodly number.
There, I just put my channel link in there because there's so many people asking. Everyone's already saying they're subscribed, so we'll see how crazy of a...
just big Venn diagram overlap.
Yeah. We kind of have the same energy, I feel like. Maybe I'm a little bit more boring.
I think they come to me for the duck shirt and they come to you for your hair. It works out. We just have to both... Oh, that's actually been one question, though, that they're curious about is, what are your thoughts on duck shirts? Do you own any animal-based shirts?
Oh, I don't... animal-based shirts. I haven't... this would be really hype if I could find it, but I have a duck in here somewhere, like a porcelain duck.
Team Space Apes, he has a duck in there.
I just don't know. I would hate to get up and dig for it for 5 minutes, but his name is Jimmy the Duck, and we used to call him Jimmy the Lame Duck back in the lame duck period before the presidency, before the inauguration. But I'm part of the duck gang, but I don't think I have any. Oh, you know what? I do have a tiger shirt.
Tiger shirt, guys. He's clearly in it with us. Hi. Does Max have a chair? Evan, yes, he has a chair.
I'm actually just doing like a standing squat right now.
He squats all day. You guys should see his quads, guys. Just no chair.
I mean, yeah. This whole table here is actually just resting on my quads.
What Oh shoot, I had where did this question go? Jimmy Duck love it. They're stoked about Jimmy. Jimmy and Cher need to do a stream. They
Well,
were
they'll start their own channel. It's
they
24-hour
really
streams.
wanted Cher and Meatball Andrew's dog to do a stream. Oh, they would love a chair, guys. You're getting a special look at Max's chair. Look at that.
Most people have to pay for this.
Evan, that was actually their question. Evan sent in a super chat to ask for your chair. Oh, your favorite Girl Scout cookie?
Probably Thin Mints.
Thin Mints. We had a big debate. So I'm a big fan of Thin Mints and Tagalongs, and to me, everything else is second tier. Like I don't even want to acknowledge that.
I agree.
I think
And
there
what's
was
that
some
coconut one?
popularity in the coconut one, and I'm not saying anything bad about it. It's just like I'm not going to pick that above Thin Mints or Tagalongs ever.
What's the coconut one called?
Samoa.
Yeah, get that out of my face. Not like do not like a Samoa.
Oh no, the chat's about to turn political on this one.
They're about to come after me. Hot take: don't like Samoas.
That I can already see the title of this clip. Max, just
We're gonna clip this out.
that's it. Oh, I love it. They they are actually really big fans of just turning these chairs into like only fan accounts, like just pictures of all the different traders,
Only
live
chairs.
streamers chairs. I think we can make it happen.
Yeah, you know what? They have like could just have, like a 24-hour all day long live stream of various chairs up, in that view where it's like five streamers in one stream, maybe at night when we're not there.
Oh, I love it. I love it. All right, so we're almost at our break time on this stream. So do you have any big concluding thoughts for the space apes here, Max?
Concluding thoughts. I don't know. Buy more stocks. Stocks only go up.
Specifically Palantir, I am sure. Well, thank you very, very much for dropping in. I am looking forward to hopping onto your stream, guys. Make sure you're checking out his YouTube channel. It's linked. We've dropped that. There's links all over. Check it out. Remember, for each one that subscribes right now, he will buy an extra $1 worth of Palantir. I know you guys love peer pressuring me into buying stocks. This is your opportunity to peer pressure a fellow YouTube streamer like me. So check out that below. But once again, thank you very much for joining, Max. We had a great time with you on chat today.
Should I buy this before we go, just for proof, or?
No, actually, if you can, can you make it a story on your Instagram? Check out Max's Instagram. You guys have about 5 more minutes to force him by subscribing to his channel to buy Palantir. He will post it to a story on his Instagram of his actual buy, so we get that validation.
Yep, I need to be accountable to it.
All right.
Well, thanks for having me on. This is a blast. We'll have to do it again sometime.
Sounds good, Max. Thank you.
Moon Gang.
All right, everyone. Thank you, Max. Drop some apes and diamond hands in chat for Max, but it's been real. Thank you very much, brother.
Take it easy.
Have a good one.
Bye.